To better understand the connections of Germany with South America before, during, and after the Second World War, we have to state the following facts, which is pure history and the reality of the real world. Listen carefully. The first declaration of war after the founding of the Third Reich was officially announced by the international powers behind the scenes as early as on Friday, the 24th of March, year 1933. 24th of March 1933 via the English language press, for example, the Daily Express in London and others like it. This fact, which has been simply suppressed by the Allied States and the democratic Christian communist worldwide regime since the end of the war, meant that from 1933 onward, Germany was forced, whether it liked it or not, to prepare for renewed international persecution and subsequent war, even though it had not yet come to terms with the defeat in the First World War and its disastrous consequences, such as territorial cessions, the loss of colonies, and unimaginable reparation payments, which obviously destroyed the country. Now, it is well known that the outcome of a war and this is something that any soldier or military official can tell you. The outcome of a war today depends not only on the fighting spirit of the soldiers, the technological standard, and modern weaponry, but also it depends on the possession of important raw materials such as oil, rubber, gasoline, etc., the raw materials. The Allied powers left sufficient quantities of platinum in their own countries, but also the Allies knew that Germany had no platinum deposits of its own in Germany and only had the chance to obtain this war-deciding precious metal. The platinum is a war-deciding precious metal via the South American state of Colombia. The only way for Germany to get that platinum was from Colombia in South America. Platinum was indispensable for the aircraft. Aircraft and air force is super important in a war. And other key industries in order to be able to sustain a war for any length of time. Even before the war began, the Second World War, the USA was trying to cut Germany off from its platinum source, which is Colombia in South America. There was like a book, which at that time in the 80s was called a recent publication. So it was published like in the 1980s or so, which is called Operation Silver Dust, German-American Platinum War in the Colombian Jungle. Amazing. Which was written in a novelistic style, and it recounts the related espionage and jungle warfare in the jungles of Colombia. The author's precise knowledge of the details is evident in the specifics that he describes in the book. There's a chapter called Prelude, describes a secret meeting between the then head of the FBI, Edgar J. Hoover, and the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army's G2 Intelligence Department, and Admiral Walter S. Anderson, in which sentences such as the following are mentioned. And it says like this: "Gentlemen, the President and other members of Congress are alarmed by the extent of the espionage trials south of our border, south of the border of the U.S. He has noted with great concern that Axis agents, especially German spies, have established a chain of spy bases from Mexico City down to Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. So pretty much South America has become a training ground, according to the Americans, for German agents. All of South America is one large radio stations, they said. From there, messages are transmitted via secret transmitters with directional beams to Cologne, Brussels, and Hamburg to the German spy headquarters." So this is regarding what was happening before and during the war. "We should establish," they said, the Americans said, "a special intelligence service, the SIS, that must begin its work very quickly in most of the affected South American countries," according to the Americans. This primarily involves disrupting German activities in Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Ecuador, Colombia, and Chile. Not to forget Mexico, which is teeming with German agents. In this context, they say, it is also interesting to know that huge sums of money are being transferred from Germany to Argentina, and that efforts have already begun to acquire key industries and large agricultural operations in the country. The first German companies in Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina, huge farms in Tucumán, Formosa, Cordoba and Cordier in Argentina, as well as those in the difficult-to-access Gran Chaco, in the Paraná Mission, and in San Carlos de Bariloche in Argentina, were bought up by the Germans. So the Germans bought all these lands in Argentina. And the same is happening in Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Paraguay. It is further reported that throughout South America, a number of German-led banks were founded and industrial enterprises were established and successfully managed during the pre-war and war years. For the German leadership, South America was something like the nucleus of a single large German colony, rich in both people and raw materials. Underground movements were created to maintain control over the most important raw materials. Now, this is important. During the 5 years from 1933 to 1938, major German companies and banks transferred a total of 300 million pesos to Argentina and invested in there. By 1945, it should be noted, according to statements by Silvano Santander, who was a member of the Argentine parliament, and later he was the ambassador to Mexico, Germany had made total investments of 3 trillion pesos in Argentina in 1945. From the 22nd of May 1944, the German Major General Faupel began to take care of the establishment of an airlift that would lead directly from Madrid in Spain to Buenos Aires in Argentina. This time, however, it was no longer about platinum from Colombia, but about gold, jewelry, and works of art of all kinds that were to be transported from Germany to Argentina. This airlift to Buenos Aires was launched and continued until the end of 1944. From that point on, individuals emigrating from Germany were taken to Schleswig-Holstein and escorted by guides across the border into Denmark. From there, they traveled to Argentina in Danish aircraft. Colonel Juan Perón, who was the pro-German Argentine president at the time in Argentina, sent a number of aircraft to Denmark, which then flew to South America via the usual route through Madrid, Spain, and the Azores, which belonged to Portugal. Scientists and engineers, industrial patents, and other valuable cargo were transported in this way. And at the beginning of 1945, President Perón of Argentina provided approximately 15,000 blank passports to the German Reich government via the Copenhagen embassy in Denmark, of which approximately 10,000 passports are said to have been used by the Germans. By the signal and radio technology experts and the U-boats, the submarine specialists who had already been sent to South America in the summer of 1944, an artificial island was installed off the Patagonian coast, the southern part of South America, as a navigation point for German submarines. A light buoy was mounted on it, which could be activated from the shore station. 2 German U-boats, listen carefully, 2 German U-boats were initially dispatched to South America as a diversion, the famous submarine U-boats 530 and 977, so U-530 and U-977. Which we have already reported on in the past, and they're very famous in the news at that time. However, between the arrival dates of these 2 boats as a diversion, 2 other German submarine U-boats, whose numbers had been redacted in all documents, appeared off the coast of Patagonia on July 29, 1945. The light buoy was activated and the first boat approached to within a few hundred meters of the coast. The many individual events and reports must be seen in a larger context that did not end in 1945, but rather began there. Many accounts of the Germans began from 1945, especially in South America. In Colombia, in South America, increasing numbers of people from Germany also appeared from the end of January 1945 onwards. Some SS officers were among them, and under the overwhelming pressure from its neighbors, especially the USA, Argentina also had to declare war on Germany on March 27, 1945. Argentina remained friendly to Germans under the President Perón era and for a time even afterwards. When the American US State Intelligence Service, the SIS, set about seizing the German companies in Argentina in 1945, it had to conclude that they all had Argentine owners and therefore could not be confiscated. Attempts were made to prove that this was nothing more than a clever German manipulation. The Argentine authorities responded with a shrug. For them, the ownership situation was clear. And that's the fascinating stuff. And unfortunately, it all ends here. I'm going to try to give you more information. It's very hard to establish from 1945 onwards. The information is very limited and only available in German, okay? So I'll make my best to give it to you. See you in the next video.